Welcome to Restoring Education in America with Priscilla Rahn. She's a master educator and author, leading the conversation to restore the American mind through wisdom, virtue, and truth.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Restoring Education in America. I'm your host, Priscilla Rahn. I'm so excited you've decided to join the conversation today. We are continuing our wonderful week at Dallas at the Teacher Freedom Alliance Summit. And guess who was walking by? The Godfather himself.
I'll take it.
Corey DeAngelis was walking by. I was like, Corey, come over here. Let's catch up. This is the first time we've met in person, but of course.
It felt like we already knew each other. We've done the podcast before, so this is good to do this again in person.
Met his beautiful wife. You're expecting baby number 2,
Yep.
You know, having more babies. That's what
right.
we need to do.
Yeah,
Catch us up on how the family's going.
Yeah, Angelina's with us at the conference. She's 2 years old. I think she's still sleeping right now. And we are expecting baby Luca in October. So we'll have a baby boy as well. And it's made the fight a lot more personal, right? Mm-hmm. I used to fight for school choice and accountability for the government school system just based on logical grounds. Like, it made no sense that we were funding buildings as opposed to the students, like we do with everything else. We fund people when it comes to food stamps. We don't fund government grocery stores and say you got to go there, for example. So it's become more about parental rights for me. Like, I want a world for my daughter and our son who's coming soon to be a lot better one than the trajectory that we're seeing right now. And I think it all starts in the schools. You have radicals who have figured out they don't have to have kids at all. They could just infiltrate the government schools, take over there, brainwash your kids and millions of others, and shape this country in a socialist direction. And so we got to strike at the root as conservatives, independents, libertarians, even rational Democrats need to say, you know what, why are the unions using my money for political purposes, some of it which I may even disagree with? Maybe I want to do that individually. Maybe I don't want it to be funneled through this behemoth organization that's making the profession look bad. So it has become a lot more personal, and we're going to homeschool our kids if we can make it happen. Very good. Well, homeschooling they're making it easier. We have wonderful vendors here with great resources. I'm so impressed as a career educator, and I kind of look at a skeptical eye. Is this like sequential? Is it really good? But it's really impressive, and the graphics are great. They're very kid friendly, and all of the additional resources. And that's what's wonderful about being here. There are a lot of public school educators here who don't buy into the craziness. And we know I've had a first row seat, having been in the teachers union, not just as a teacher union member, but a leader. I was a delegate all the way up to NEA, and then I got red pilled and I quit the teachers union. But why is the teachers union so dangerous for families right now? Well, because they're pushing a lot of garbage that has nothing to do with education. So they steal our tax money through property taxes mostly, and other revenue sources as well. And we're spending $21,000 a kid in the public school system today. The money's not making its way into the classroom. It doesn't go towards teachers either. If you look over at the trends over time, since 1970, per student spending has increased, inflation adjusted, by about 170%. And you might say, well, have the outcomes gotten 170% better? No, they've actually gotten worse in some cases. But you might say, okay, well, maybe it's not going towards student outcomes, but maybe the teachers are being paid a little more. Had the teachers pay increased by about that much? Maybe it's only gone up by 100%. No, it's gone up by a whopping 3%. So the teachers aren't seeing the money. They're getting the short end of the stick. The families are getting the short end of the stick. And it's hurting our country overall. The public school system was created supposedly to be about social cohesion, so people could get along. You get to understand everyone else's way of life, and we start to kind of turn into this American melting pot. That was the whole idea of the public school system, at least purportedly to begin with. But now you have divisive ideologies, critical theory, you have gender ideology that's wedged its way into the classroom. And that means less time for the basics. So we're not doing as well academically, but it also means that you're ripping the country apart. You are pitting people against each other based on immutable characteristics. And, it shouldn't surprise us that we live in such a polarized society today. I think it's directly tied to the teachers union's influence on our public education system. They're molding the minds of millions of young, impressionable children, and then they're growing up voting for Zohran Mamdani right when they get out of high school. And the union, UFT, endorsed Zohran Mamdani, a guy who's a socialist who said I used an analogy earlier saying, why would you want to be assigned to a grocery store? He's calling for government-run grocery stores. He's not shy about it. And so it shouldn't surprise us that the same guy supports the government running the schools as well. It turns out into more far-left Democrat voters. And one last thing I'll say on this is that Randi Weingarten, the president of the teachers union, she's paid about $500,000 a year. The teachers aren't seeing that money. And she pushed a book project calling conservatives fascist. And now she's being investigated by Congress for dedicating about $1.4 million of union dues from teachers towards promoting her vanity project, her book. And it's just crazy to me that any teacher would say, oh yeah, I'm not making much money myself, but I'm going to go and fork over $1,000 a year to this union that's giving money to people like Randy, who makes $500,000 a year, to go promote her book. And on top of that, to dump that money towards a book project. Randi Weingarten admitted on Facebook, after being investigated by Congress, or getting the letter that she's going to be investigated, she said, that's true that, we split the proceeds, but we worked together on this, and 50% of the proceeds are going to the union. Okay, well, where's the other 50% going? Well, that means it's going to profit herself personally. Did she put up 1.4 million and then the union also put up 1.4 million? I highly doubt that.
And you guys are friends on X, right?
Oh, not at all. She actually ran away to Blue Sky because she got bullied too much on X. And so she's bleeding followers. She's bleeding thousands of followers. Her pinned tweet right now is that she's basically running away to Blue Sky. We saw this with NEA president Becky Pringle too, that they're moving to safer spaces, to Blue Sky, where it's a left-wing echo chamber. They can't deal with any disagreement, so they ran off to Blue Sky. And so she still checks X though, because she posted about some of the things that she sees happen on X. So I guess they tried to quit the drug, but they just can't. They're still.
Well, I find it really fascinating that, we talk about children being indoctrinated, but really teachers also. As a young teacher, when I was a baby teacher, teachers union came in and put their arms around me and said, you need to be a part of our organization, because if you're not in the teachers union, you could get fired by your principal.
You can get sued.
We're stronger together. We can do collective bargaining, all of this stuff. And then, I think 30 years ago when I became a teacher, it looked different. It was more of an association where we got a newsletter and discounts on our car insurance, and it felt really benign. But we know that it has morphed into this social justice organization where what's almost 98% of our dues dollars goes to Democrats. Ask next time, when was the last time the teachers union endorsed a Republican conservative for any office? So I think it's time for us as educators to get out of this fear factor. Come join Teacher Freedom Alliance. You're here. So like two different worlds colliding, kind of, sort of. Why are you attracted to Teacher Freedom Alliance?
Yeah, so I've been a school choice advocate for a long time, so much that my enemies labeled me the school choice evangelist, as if that was a bad thing. There was these socialists in one of these magazines, and I saw it. I was like, that actually looks pretty good. I'll take it. And so I put that on my Twitter bio, now X. And the logic there is that with more competition, the districts should improve. They should do a better job. The public school system today is a monopoly, has no incentive to spend the money in the classroom on the teachers, and it has no incentive to really do a good job, because if the students are being failed academically or in other ways, they basically can't leave. They have captive customers. And so just imagine if you were assigned to a restaurant, they gave you food poisoning because the food was so bad and you started throwing up, and they told you, oh, if you just give us more money, we'll do a better job next time. We won't give you food poisoning, we promise. And then it keeps happening. It's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again. And just imagine if they further told you, well, if that doesn't work, you can go complain to the grocery board. They'll listen to you, or the restaurant board. They'll listen to you, and then they'll just call you a domestic terrorist like they did with the public school system. But when it comes to teacher choice, it's the same kind of logic, but it gives an incentive with competition for the union bosses to do a better job. So when Randi Weingarten and Becky Pringle start to see some of their money flowing out of the union, and they lose the most when people are voting with their feet to say, I'm opting out. And Freedom Foundation is doing a good job of this. The Teacher Freedom Alliance, Aaron just announced last night that over 16,000 teachers have left their government unions and joined the Teacher Freedom Alliance. They do that. You can go to optouttoday.com. You can click on your state, whether it's a red state or blue state, wherever you're at. You can no longer be compelled to pay union dues as a condition of employment. And that's because of a Supreme Court decision that actually happened way back in 2018. And so a lot of people don't know that they have these rights, especially in blue states where the teachers unions put their thumb on the scale and they try to fearmonger as much as possible, like you said, but then they're not going to advertise that you can opt out of the union because it affects their bottom line. And so I'm grateful for organizations like Teacher Freedom Alliance, like the Freedom Foundation, who are pointing out that you can opt out. You have rights to opt out. You don't have to pay these people anymore. And it's so effective that in states like California, it's already happened in New York and Oregon. They've introduced legislation and passed it, by the way, to block groups like Freedom Foundation from getting to the teachers to tell them about their rights. Like they don't have any confidence in their services if the teachers know, if they don't want their customers, basically the teachers, the members, to know that they can leave. It's the same argument as school choice. They don't want people to know that they have a school choice program. They fight against that because they have no confidence in their product that they're providing in the government schools. And so they also have no confidence in what they're giving to teachers. So there's so many parallels here. I think competition's always a rising tide that lifts all boats. And, I'm not calling to entirely abolish the teachers unions yet. But if we're going to have them and they have some competition, I wouldn't have as much of a problem with them, because if they started to function better, if they actually started to focus on student outcomes and teachers, then it wouldn't be as big of a problem as it is today, where they have this no incentive to do the right thing. They funnel money towards Democrat causes. And just last year, they had their convention in Portland, Oregon. Of course they did, in Portland, Oregon. And they passed a resolution dedicating thousands of dollars to label President Trump as a fascist. And in the same resolution, they misspelled the word fascism. And then this year, they were going to dedicate $5.2 million towards calling for a march on Washington to remove President Trump from office before November. And so it's just, they didn't actually vote in favor of that when I think it got removed from the table for consideration. But there was a bunch of others that were crazy as well. And this week, there's Randy Weingarten's union, the AFT. They're passing their own set of resolutions. One of them calls to cut the military budget by 50%. It's like, I thought you were I thought you were in education. Like, what is it? Like, what's the connection here? They're also calling to fight against AI. One of them, they say that AI, they're scared of it taking their jobs. So that, I have kind of mixed feelings about AI in education. But when the unions are coming out against it, and then just yesterday, Anthropic just announced that there's Claude for teachers. And you might say, oh, that's good. That's a tool for teachers, right? But I did a little bit more digging on their website. When they're announcing this, they give a quote from Randy Weingarten saying, oh yeah, we partnered with Anthropic. You think she's not going to program it to give her left-leaning responses? And she doesn't even have to. So I looked even further. The Washington Post just did an analysis where they rank all of the different AI programs. Claude is one of them. Grok is like basically the only one I use because I'm on X all the time anyway. But Grok was basically balanced ideologically. It says, well, about half the time they give left-leaning responses and about half the time they give right-leaning responses. It's pretty balanced out. But with Claude, about half the time, 50% of the time they give only the left-leaning perspective. About half the time they give both perspectives. Guess how many times they give only the right-leaning perspective? 0%. So you got 50% versus 0%. It's totally in the tank with the teachers unions, with the left. And Randy Weingarten was also an at-large member of the Democrat National Committee for a while, for actually almost 3 decades.
Wow.
And nobody knew about it until she left, like last year. The New York Times reported as if everybody knew she was part of the DNC. We knew they were connected somehow. We didn't know she had a seat at the table. And so there's so many more anti-ICE resolutions. They also they want to give red cards to students. I actually found one of these. And so the NEA passed this one last week. And so they copy and paste a lot of their resolutions. And so this one is to fearmonger students and to basically make them afraid of President Trump and the administration. This has nothing to do with math, reading, and writing. And that's the point, isn't it? They also passed resolutions to mobilize students to participate in May Day protests. You know who started the May Day protest, or at least pushed them for a long time? The socialists. And so you have the teachers' unions pushing socialist propaganda and using your kids as political pawns in the process. You might agree with the May Day process. I don't, but the teachers and the students shouldn't be used to go lobby at the Capitol. This was what the Chicago Teachers Union did just this year. They used the kids they bust them to the Capitol to go lobby for more taxpayer money and to indoctrinate them with their socialist ideology. So they're not just doing it in the classroom, they're also doing it in the political sphere as well.
You know, it's so funny. I have the picture of the president and the first lady in my classroom. It got ripped down, not once, not twice.
By teachers, but by teachers.
No, actually by students.
Oh, you can't discipline
students. So I finally got smart. I put it up. They got on chairs and they started ripping it down. Then I put it behind the glass, you know, and I'm thinking, I have students who can't even respect who the president and the first lady is, that they're ripping down these images, and parents who won't.
Well, and you know, it's only one-sided. If you had a Joe Biden picture or a Kamala Harris, they wouldn't touch it. They'd respect it. Yeah, Obama would be great. And so the thing is, like, we wonder why so many people, again, I mentioned this earlier, but we live in a polarized society today. And I think it's partially because of the teachers unions, how they set things up, and a part of the bias in the curriculum as well. But it's also because when people don't have a logical argument to say, I disagree with you, but I'm going to be able to, you know, just think this through, and I'll say why I support this political party. You can say why you support this political party. Instead, they resort to either violence or vandalism, basically ripping down the posters in the classroom. I think it's because they haven't learned to process logical arguments. And that's part of schools focusing on what they're supposed to be doing. The university system is supposed to be the same way. The whole point of the university and academia is supposed to be people disagree about things. You come together and look what happened to Charlie Kirk. His whole point was to get people to come together who disagreed, to debate ideas vigorously, but peacefully and respectfully. Well, they couldn't have that. And I think there's so much of this divisiveness starts in the classroom today. And I think if you can't learn these logical arguments, Charlie Kirk had it right. It's going to rip our country apart, and it's going to lead to really bad things. And so I think if we want to correct course, we have to strike at the root, take the schools back. And that doesn't mean to rip down left-leaning posters either. That means to get together and teach kids how to debate ideas. And so I think that will improve our academic outcomes. It's going to improve math, reading, and writing. I think logic and math are really intertwined and related. So if you're bad at math, you're probably going to be bad at logic as well. And so I think that's the way forward. I think and that's the reason why we have so much of these. You see it on social media too. I mean, I get plenty of it myself. I'm sure everybody else in the Teacher Freedom Alliance does as well if they're active on social media. But you know, you get the death threats. You get the same person giving me death threats was also posting my address on X and just aerial view from Google Maps of my house in San Antonio, Texas. And so it's like, they can't just debate the ideas. They said, I wish you to be dead. They wish death upon me. And so I think if that's kind of a reflection of the state of affairs in education today.
Yeah, you talk a lot about choice, and this is your platform, which is really, really critical thinking. And I hear this even in public education. We teach kids how to think, not what to think, which is not true. I have not witnessed that. But teaching kids how to think is critical, but teaching parents that they are empowered to make these choices. You're making this courageous choice. We're probably going to homeschool our kids. That takes a lot of courage. It starts with that belief that you can do it and that there is a system of support around you. But for teachers to also know that you have an option. You can take a look at what the teachers union is offering, what you're paying. I gave myself a $70 a month raise by leaving the teachers union. Okay. And you can take a look at, see what Teacher Freedom Alliance offers you for free. Now, we know nothing in life is free. There are very generous donors who care enough about us as educators who say, I'm going to cover your $2 million liability insurance.
Which is twice the amount that Randy Weingarten gives. So like, what? It becomes such a no-brainer. Like you're getting, even if you disagreed with the Teacher Freedom Alliance politically, even if you're Democrat, even if you're like, this is just about dollars and cents. Okay, opt out. You can get the funding. You can't be retaliated against. You can't lose your job because of it, because of the Supreme Court win. They'd be in hot water if they tried to do this at the district level. And you get the professional development. You don't have to pay anything, and you don't just get $1 million in liability insurance. You get $2 million, and the policy is not in the union's name, which it usually is, which means they can pick and choose who they're going to defend. And if you're conservative, maybe they'll say, we're not gonna help you out on this one. But so you get twice as much money, and the policy's in your personal name, so where you have actual real protection. That's just, why in the world would you not?
Yeah, socialism union membership does not really help you. I've had to use the union for supports, and they're ineffective, because guess what? The school district does whatever they want to do anyway. So it doesn't matter if you're a dues paying member of the teachers union or not. The teachers union is not necessarily effective.
Well, for example, over the past year, we talked about Charlie Kirk for a second. There were a teacher in Chicago. Her name was Lucy Martinez, I think. She was teaching at Nathan Hale Elementary School, and she went viral on social media for going to this kind of political protest. And there was kids driving by. They had like a Charlie Kirk banner on their truck, and they were video recording, going through the protest and stuff. And she, in her infinite wisdom, starts mocking the kids. Which, by the way, you're a teacher; you should be showing professionalism, not acting like children, or even worse than the children. Because she goes like this. She puts a fake gun to her neck, to like mocking them, like, oh, we got him, kind of thing. And this is a teacher. People found this out pretty quickly. She went viral. She didn't just make national news, she made international news. It became such a big deal that Nathan Hale Elementary shut their website down. They stopped answering all phone calls. So they wouldn't respond to requests for comment. They didn't respond to any emails. They shut down their entire website. And at the end of the day, they waited till things blew over, and then she's still employed there. And so, their whole thing is, it's our First Amendment rights, but that's only when you agree with them. When you don't agree with you, they want your head on a pike, figuratively, and they want you to lose your job, but only if you're a conservative. And so, we can have the First Amendment, but you don't have freedom from repercussions as well. So there's freedom of association. If you're doing bad things and teaching kids craziness, well, then you should be fired. Well, look on the flip side. There was another teacher in the Chicago area. I don't know if he was in the same district, but Fox News reported that he was basically forced out of his job because he posted on Facebook something like as simple as "Go ICE," like supportive of ICE, immigration enforcement. So you support law enforcement, you got to leave your job, but you actually mock the death of someone after a political assassination, go viral on it. There's video evidence. Everybody knows it's you. And no, you get to keep your job. And it's just the imbalance of how they apply their standards is just peak hypocrisy. And either it's not even that it was one side or the other. One was just much further down, like much more serious. Like you saying "Go ICE." Yes, that was more of a right-leaning comment, but it was like pales in magnitude to you mocking the death of someone after an assassination just happened.
And I always say ICE is a product of our democracy. We, the people, wanted to have immigration enforcement, protection of our borders. And that's why Congress passed this, ICE organization in the first place. And that people don't understand the history behind ICE. And so it is part of our save our democracy, right? But you are Dr. Corey DeAngelis. You are
almost forgot.
You are an author.
I'm more like a Jill Biden doctor. I have a PhD in education policy. So.
I know you're so humble, and you don't put that in the forefront. But he does have his PhD, and that's very credible. And when you came over, I saw your book like just at the corner of my eye. Book? I was like, "Is that your book?" Okay, guys.
This is my book.
This is Corey's book. See how beautiful it is? Patriotic, red, white, and blue.
Came out in 2024.
Oh my goodness. Wait, did you see it? Is this the same book? Or
It
not?
looks like the same book. You
Oh,
can even turn
wait.
the back looks the same.
Oh
Look at that.
my goodness.
Oh, weird.
Oh,
Weird. Oh, and I used parent in red. This person used fascist. Is she calling parents fascist? Hers came out a year after mine. So we talked about how Congress is investigating Randy Weingarten for using a $1.4 million in teachers' paychecks towards her vanity project, her book. I was kind of the first person to put a spotlight on this because I did some digging. She had just hit the New York Times bestseller list. Like, how the heck did she do that with this ridiculous book? Maybe because she had such a great cover design that she copied from me just a year after my book, which, by the way, I dedicated my book to her for overplaying her hand, inadvertently doing more to advance home education and school choice than anyone could have ever imagined. I guess she didn't like that, and her clapback was basically to invoke Hitler on the first page, call conservatives fascist, basically call parents fascist. It looks like, and copy my book cover as well. But now they're investigating her for $1.4 million. When I first found this out, this was actually a year ago in September 2025. I saw that when she hit the list, there was a PR group called Feldman Strategies. I'd never heard of them before. They were bragging about how Randy Weingarten hit the list. And they were like, oh, we're all promoting her book at Feldman Strategies. And I was like, huh, okay, let me look at their LM2 report, which is a publicly available report. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go look it up yourself. There was a line item there for $171,000 from Randy's union to Feldman Strategies. So she paid this group with union dues to promote her book. And then I kind of left it there. And I was like, that's the tip of the iceberg. Looks fishy. I asked them about it on X when they were still on X, the American Federation of Teachers. They responded to me after it went viral and said, oh, that's not true. Our teachers union boss, President Randy Weingarten, she only makes $500,000, not $600,000 a year, which was totally beside the point of the post, which was my post was asking them, why are you using union dues to promote her book? They didn't respond to that. So it was kind of like a red herring almost. And it is true. If you look at the LM2, it's about $500,000 from the union. That's true. But I had posted she makes $600,000 herself. She gets $100,000 in other compensation from other groups. And so she does make about $600,000. But that was besides the point. They were trying to change the conversation, move the goalpost when they didn't answer anything about that money. Well, the Freedom Foundation went down the rabbit hole a little deeper and said, oh, it's not just $170,000. It's $1.4 million.
Oh my goodness.
Now Congress sends her a letter. She's crying about it on social. She's saying something along the lines of, they're picking on me. They're maliciously targeting me is what she said. No, she didn't say targeting me. She always does this weird rhetorical trick with language. And she'll say, they're targeting us. No, actually, literally, no one's coming after teachers, Randy Weingarten. We're actually watching what you did with their money. We are defending the teachers, calling you out. And so she always deflects and says, oh, it's not about me. They're attacking teachers. No, like they're not getting called before Congress. You are. And so Randy Weingarten admitted on Facebook right after that. So she did some videos. She also did a post on Facebook saying, I'm getting investigated by Congress, poor me, and they've done this before. And oh, by the way, it's been known by everybody that 50% of the proceeds are going towards the union. Well, where's the other 50% going? So she's seems like she's personally profiting from the book project. She also bullied Target with teachers unions pension dues. I'm not sure if you saw this one yet, but she went viral pretty recently because I found this under this video that she was bragging to members about bullying Target executives, the retail store that's based in Minneapolis. And she said, you're based in Minneapolis. You should be coming out against immigration enforcement. And oh, by the way, we own 7% of your stock, Target, in our pension funds. A veiled threat, if not an outright threat, saying basically we're going to pull our money and hurt your stock portfolio and your valuation if you do not come out against ICE. They basically told her, too bad, we're not, they didn't come out against ICE. They didn't take a stand on it either way. And it's just crazy that you have a teachers union president, one of the biggest unions in the country, using teachers' money that way to benefit her personal political beliefs. I'd say that's some sort of breach of fiduciary duty. And Congress needs to investigate that too. this book project, that's the tip of the iceberg. I think they need to look into, like you have a duty to shareholders, right? Not to, I'm going to use this to my advantage politically. Like you're supposed to be maximizing teachers' retirement benefits. That should be the sole purpose of that pension fund, not to say, oh, we're going to use this as political leverage. It's become such a big problem. And I didn't know this. It was not just Target. There were other groups, I think Tesla as well, that the union was doing this to. And it's become such a big deal that there's a group called Consumers Research. I hadn't heard much about them until this year, but they sent a letter to the Department of the Department of Justice to investigate Randy Weingarten's union for not just the Target stunt, but this Tesla stunt. And they were supposedly boycotting firearms manufacturers as well because of their anti-Second Amendment stance. And there's so many other bullet points as to where they've crossed a line towards using their union and the money involved in that union, including pension funds, for political ends. So Congress needs to go much further than the book project.
Wow. We just got caught up.
We covered a lot of ground.
We covered a lot. And now I have to go back and do a little more research and find some of these clips, because I follow you on X and it's just constant information. You guys need to follow. What's your X?
You can follow me on X. It's at DeAngelis Corey. It's my last name, then my first name. And if you want to get the book, it's not this one. It's this one. It's The Parent Revolution. You can get basically anywhere. President Trump endorsed it. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth endorsed it. Vivek Ramaswamy and a bunch of others endorsed it as well. And Ted Cruz says on the back, by a senator from Texas, that you can ruin Randy Weingarten's day by reading this book. Don't get this one, but call her out. Maybe send her a copy of mine and say, hey, can you sign a copy of your book and send it to her? And maybe she'll get the message. Like the book looks kind of similar to yours because you copied him.
Well, and get two, one for you, one for a friend. Okay. One for a teacher friend who's in the union, one to parents who are frustrated. I mean, we need to make great Christmas gifts, Father's Day gifts, Mother's Day gifts, all kind of gifts. Okay, guys, we need to get into a habit of buying books and sharing them with other people, because that's how we're going to exponentially get the word out about what's going on. But man, we really appreciate all you're doing, all your advocacy. You're putting yourself on the front line, and it's a big sacrifice what you're doing. So please pray for him, pray for his family, for safety everywhere we go. I know that you are, walking in courage and putting on the full armor, right, as you're doing this work. So thank you again. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. Catch me next time. And remember, educating the mind without the heart is no education. So seek wisdom, cultivate virtue, and speak truth.
Thanks for tuning in to Restoring Education in America with Priscilla Rahn. Visit PriscillaRahn.com to connect or learn how you can sponsor future episodes to keep this message of faith, freedom, and education on the air.